Growing up, we've all been taught to go with the flow, but what about the ebb? Welcome to Beyond Polarity. This is Vlad. I wanted to go over something very simple, yet the explanation is rather elaborate. I'm going to give myself a time limit to explain every single little piece, and then if you have any questions about anything I'm talking about, you can send me an email or comment or do something like that, and I might answer it at a later episode. So, ebb and flow. We're taught to go with the flow, and this is a great oversimplification and can actually get you in trouble. Going with the flow can get you, there's all kinds of different flows that you can get into, downward spiral being one of them. You do not want this little tiny piece of programming to motivate you to do something like that, okay? So I want to discuss some basic principles. First and foremost, I want to start with the macrocosmic and work my way down to where we're at right now. I'm not religious or anything like that. I get into all kinds of conversations like this. People say that I quote different scriptures and stuff like that, and that's great. They are useful tools, but I in no way participate in organized religion. Having said that, the universe is alive. Now, some of the most devout atheistic quantum physicists have basically changed their tune. You can Google all this. It's well documented that there is a God, if that's what you want to call it the universe, call it whatever you want. Everything, including inanimate objects, are essentially made of pure consciousness. If you want to Google the Heisenberg principle and things of that matter, I could go on for days about this stuff, but let's just move along and just take that as a given. They talk a lot about we are built in His image. Well, what that means is actually a lot more complicated. He's not a He's not a bipedal entity that hangs out and he just made copies of himself or something like that. It's a lot more complex. And again, to make it succinct, the universe is a fractal. Everything in the universe is fractalated. It's a self-repeating mechanism. It's like a self-repeating image. If you remember those images that you used to look at probably in high school while you were under the influence of some kind of hallucinogenic like I was, any piece of the image is the exact same thing as the whole. So this is what this means. That's why atoms look like planets and all this different stuff that stoners talk about. That's why these things occur. Granted, there's different principles that govern subatomic levels to macrocosmic things, so whatever. So let's just accept these two basic principles. There's a God, the universe is pure consciousness, if you just want to call it the universe, and then we are fractalated. We are little tiny microcosmic versions of the overall macrocosm. So if you have had any kind of experience living, you probably have noticed that we inhale and we exhale. The tide comes in and the tide goes out. You've noticed night, you've noticed day. You've probably noticed our reality is dualistic. There's a point and there's a counterpoint. There's an ebb and there's a flow to everything. So if we're going to talk about going with the flow, we have to really respect and understand that because we are in this fractalated universe, okay, everything affects everything else. Everything is in perfect synchronicity. There are a lot of things that we can't see. Okay, now a lot of people are just like, oh, well, if I can't see it, I don't believe it. Well, okay, fine. Explain how our phones work. Explain the air we breathe. You can't see it. You don't believe it? It's there. There's ways to prove that. There's all kinds of frequencies. We live in a certain frequency. And we see and hear only certain frequencies, but it's scientifically proven that there are frequencies far beyond what we can see and hear. So we have this little tiny piece that we see in 3 dimensions. And beyond that, we're completely oblivious. So we don't see the synchronicity because the vast majority of the mechanism is not even visible to us. So everything breathes, everything has 2 sides, back and forth. The pendulum swings back and forth. A great example of this, and I'm not big on astrology, so I really haven't gone too deep into this stuff, but something I do pay attention to is what's called Mercury retrograde. And this is something I've noticed affects me greatly. And basically what happens is the orbit, the speed of Mercury versus the speed of the orbit of Earth, when they align, there is what's called the wagon wheel effect. It looks like it's going backwards. If you think of a car rim, when you look at it, it goes a certain speed. Well, if the car accelerates, the wheel appears to stop for a second and then starts to go backwards. This is an illusion. This is due to how fast we're able to process this information. But it creates the illusion of this retrograde effect. At any rate, Mercury in retrograde, along with a lot of other stuff that occurs with the magnetic fields, is a period of ebb. Now, if you want to learn more about it, Google the Farmer's Almanac, and you probably won't even have to click a link beyond Googling it. It'll be right there telling you exactly what it is and when they fall. The last time Mercury was in retrograde, my beloved Scratchy, my cat, passed away, and my entire central air conditioning was kaput. The time before that, I broke up with my girlfriend. I lost a lot of friends due to some strange situations that I won't get into, and my band broke up, all within this window. So I pay a lot of attention to it. Again, macrocosmic to microcosmic. What happens, the alignment of all that shit out there affects us directly. It absolutely does. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to talk about the full moon and how it affects the tides and how we're mostly water and all that shit that you've heard, hopefully, before. If not, again, question or comment. The ancient people understood that this was very important. There's what's called the Antikythera mechanism, which is they call it the world's first computer. And it was actually a mechanism that was able to gauge the alignment of the stars with how it affected the earth. I mean, it's incredibly sophisticated, and it was in a time where we were still playing with sticks and stones. So the fact that we are being lied to about our history and all that stuff aside, the ancient people knew that this was very important. There was no reason why anybody who was playing with sticks and stones would have to know that kind of information. These are important things to know. Now, why? Like, what are you going to do with this information? Like, okay, well, ebb. Well, what happens in ebb, as I illustrated with my earlier examples, is viewed as a negative thing. When you're in flow, everything works out. You're driving to work, you catch all the green lights, there's a parking spot right up front, maybe you're at a bar, you see somebody you like, you talk to them, everything is effortless, beautiful. This is a flow state. Ebb is not necessarily the exact opposite, but things are not aligning. Things are not working out. So you do not want to make any rash decisions. You want to recognize it for what it is. And what it is a learning period. There's a time to do, and there's a time to sit back and learn. And the universe is trying to teach you something. Instead of being like, yeah, I know, whatever, dude, I'm trying to do this, you got to pay attention to what's going on. You have to learn to recognize this thing and pull back and watch. Don't make any rash decisions. If you're fighting with your girlfriend or boyfriend, unless it's something really legitimate like cheating and things like of that nature, if you're just bickering on a superficial level, pull back. Stop doing that crap. It's just an ebb. Recognize it and do not go with that flow. Sit back, hang back, and wait for it to pass. Don't make any business deals, anything that's iffy. If you're not catching all the green lights, if you are bickering with your girlfriend, if the elevator isn't there, if you are late for work and everything just seems to be not aligning, just take that as a precursor to whatever really important thing that you have to do. And maybe it's not the right time to do it right now. Maybe you need to research it a little bit more. Maybe you need to look into it a little bit more before you finally say, hey, you know what, fuck it, like, let's do this. Because when those things aren't aligning, chances are the entire fractal is being affected by that ebb. And then to get even a little bit more specific, once you learn to recognize the ebb and the flow and learn to move in accordance to the inhalation and exhalation of the universe, what you want to do is, you're a ship on the ocean and you're going with the flow, but you have to steer that ship. There's a set of potentialities. If you're just going with the flow, you could end up at all kinds of different destinations. You want to set a course and go towards that destination. Through ebb, pull back. Realize that there might be an iceberg ahead. When you're going with the flow, make use of the wind going in your direction or in the general direction, but steer the boat and get to your destination. Know where you're going. Use these tools, because in the Western world, we're taught, make it happen, make it happen, make it happen. And that's just not how things work. You can't just make everything happen. If I can make everything happen, I can get in my car, slam on the accelerator, and just plow right through all the red lights and plow through all the cars in the way and just bully my way through life. That's not the way things work. You gotta start, you gotta know when to stop, you have to know when to accelerate and go a little faster. Like if a car is coming and merging with you, sometimes you gotta go a little faster, sometimes you gotta stay exactly where you are, and sometimes you gotta hit the brakes a little bit. You have to learn to recognize these things in your life. And that's it. That's all I gotta say on this one. Thank you. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel. And if you have any questions or comments, hit me up. I will do my best to answer them in a timely manner. I'm also gonna do my best to make this a regular Thursday event. I'm going to post these at 2 o'clock. So, like I said, subscribe and be waiting. Thank you. Vlad V out.